And with a play pump, the water source is in the middle of the school ground, and on top of it, we put a merry-go-round. And as the children are playing during break time, they're pumping the water into a tank, and then we have a plumbing system. So I'm trying to raise money for one of these play tanks. This container is one of my latest ventures. Just before I got ill, I'm recovering from heart failure. I had an idea to go back to Zimbabwe and build a library and a clinic. I gave speeches all over Wellington. I'd go to a primary school and tell the principal to tell the kids to bring any books they don't want. In 90 days, I collected 65,000 books. My Rotary Club filled the container with computers, people in business. I have 200 computers, and they bought the container for me. So it's being shipped to Zimbabwe, and when the container gets to the village, we empty out the books for the library, and the container becomes the first clinic in my community. The ARV drugs for AIDS are available 40 kilometers away, but people do not have the $2 to get on the bus at the end of each month to get the free medication. So people are dying of AIDS in Zimbabwe because of poverty and politics.
I'm showing.
So we're going to hire a private nurse who manages this container. We will stock it with generic drugs, buy her a car, and once a month she will go and pick up the World Health workers who distribute the drugs and bring them to the community and cut out the transport costs for my community as well. So, my dad used to say that in every problem there is an opportunity. And boy, have I found opportunities. My latest opportunity came through the Me Too movement. I started watching women worldwide coming together, marching, holding their placards, and using their voices. And I thought, what else could we do with all of this feminine energy? And I came up with an idea to start the Her Story Circle. It came like a vision of women sitting in silos of 10, and there were spikes that went out, and there was another 10, and another 10, and another 10. And it was like a spider's web. And I put on Facebook in February, if I was to host a meeting or a gathering or a conference with 100 speakers in 1,000 locations, and every woman had to bring 10 friends, 1,000 times 1,000 is 1,000,000, I could connect 1,000,000 women in 1 year. And in 48 hours, I had 280 locations locked in, a database with 3,500 people, and we launched our first conference. And these women stepped up to share their stories. One by one, from Australia to the UK, to Japan, India. Every corner of the globe has responded, and all these women are sharing their stories because I somehow managed to communicate the vision of what we could do with the Me Too movement. How women could get together, how we could collaborate, how through the sharing of our stories, we not only heal ourselves from our wounds, we heal the past, and we heal the future. And we hold a safe space for us to be heard. We are inviting men to speak as well, 25%, because there's no point for us to come together. It's like talking to yourself. Men have been affected by the Me Too movement as well. They need to be heard. And if anything is going to change in this world, it's when we come together with our men folk and they can hear us telling our stories and we can hear them sharing theirs. So my grandmother used to say that for a tree to survive, it has to scatter its seed as far away from it as possible. I believe that I am one of Africa's seeds. And my call to action today is to people like me. Is there anybody here from Africa today? Can I have a show of hands? We need to go home. I believe that we are time travelers. We left the continent for a reason, to get the knowledge and the skills. The missing piece for Africa is education. and we have to go home and do a little something. We had a drought in 2007. I got to the school and I observed all the kids within the first 5-10 minutes. They would all fall asleep when they sat at their desks. And I asked the teachers what was going on. And they told me that most kids were eating 2 or 3 times a week if they were lucky. They were just hungry. And I'm a mother of 3. And anything to do with children really affects me. So I started this little feeding program. It cost 15 cents to feed a child in Zimbabwe. But what happened when the feeding program started, all the villagers started sending the under 5-year-olds to the school for food every morning. How do you send away an under 5-year-old child? So I started a preschool. And those women who used to toil in the field with babies on their backs now had a safe place to leave the kids. And the kids got an education, which was a double whammy for me. And I love this picture because this little girl followed me around the school this day. She had her little friend. And as I knelt at her feet, I realized that the difference between her and me is a few years of education. And I knew that she was going to go back to her village and do the same thing. These little girls followed me the whole day and they were chatting behind me, and I stopped because I wanted to listen to what they were saying. And one of them said, "Oh my gosh, she's so beautiful." And then the other one said, "And you know what? She's driving the car." Women don't drive in my community. And I realized that day that the little something I had done was just to show up as me, to show up as the possibility, so they could see themselves through me and dream to be me. So even if I don't do anything else for these kids, I just have to show up. And sometimes that's all you need to do. So if Africa is the cradle of humanity, it means that all human beings on this planet are African people. My call to action today is, please join us. Join this amazing movement. Come and listen. Come and be a speaker. Come and share your story. Because what we are doing is we are creating a bridge between women in the developed world and women in the developing world, so we can pull our sisters up. One woman at a time, one story at a time. And I've got to thank my father for everything that he gave me. Bakandipa unu wangu, which means he gave me my humanity. He made me feel for people around me. Empathy, compassion, and connection are the superpowers that every single human being possesses. But it starts at home, where you put your family first, your community next, and if you have something to spare, do something somewhere else in the world. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and big apologies, massive apologies for the delay in starting. We've had a big issue with the technology. As you can hear, it's still coming up, but we'll get there. So I'll introduce myself as my name is Marilise Numhoza, and I'm going to be moderating today. So as we heard from our sister who just set the scene, let us come and listen and share our story, one woman at a time. Let's work together to heal the past and build the future. And we hold together, sharing our stories with the world, and together with our men. So today we mark the African Women's Day, which is celebrated on the 31st of July each year, to celebrate and acknowledge the foremothers of Africa who gallantly fought for the liberation and development of this continent. African women have been at the center of historical movements for centuries, from empowering enslaved communities to nation building on the continent. Women in Africa, as well as in the diaspora, have efficiently challenged dominant power structure, shifting the global realities of Black people. However, the journey hasn't been easy. Women have struggled for decades to establish their place in a men's-dominated society as equals. However, our foremothers that we celebrate today and tomorrow were leaders and not mere followers looking for a voice. It is now hard to explain how they fell from the glory. However, over time, we are seeing barriers coming down as women slowly but surely take on leadership positions. There is still a lot of work to be done. So today, we will look at the heroic roles of African women far back in history, and our guest speakers will share with us their insight on how our foremothers navigated the patriarchal society and what impact their voices have left in our communities and at the international level. And tomorrow, we'll have a second session where we'll look at the way forward and how we implement actions based on the lessons from our foremothers. So following up now, I would like to welcome my sister Mado Nzita from the Common Cause UK to come and share her poem. Welcome, sister.
Thank you.
Take a seat.
Hello everyone, bonjour toutes les mamans, à tout le monde qui nous regarde aujourd'hui, qui nous suit aujourd'hui. Je suis Maman Nzita Ngoma, je suis de Common Cause. Je vais vous lire mon poème d'aujourd'hui. Mon poème s'intitule La femme au centre de l'humanité. Viens, on va travailler. La femme au centre de l'humanité, lève-toi, ferme pas les yeux. Viens, on va travailler. La femme, regarde ce que tu as vécu dans le monde d'aujourd'hui. Ferme pas tes yeux, viens, on va travailler. La femme, à cause de ton humiliation, tu as fermé les yeux, la tête courbée. Ferme pas les yeux, viens, on va travailler. Femme, mets-toi debout, ferme pas les yeux, viens, on va travailler. Si tu n'avais pas donné naissance, il n'y aurait pas l'humanité. Viens, on va travailler. Je sais que ta douleur est intense. Ouvre tes yeux, viens, on va travailler. Parce que tu es le centre de l'humanité. C'est toi qui nourris et allaites l'humanité. Viens, la femme. Ferme pas les yeux, viens, on va travailler. C'est toi qui as donné, c'est toi qui fais que l'humanité soit. Si viens, on va travailler. Je sais que la femme n'arrive pas à voir, la femme n'arrive pas à supporter des atrocités qu'elle subit chaque jour au quotidien. Viens, la femme, mets-toi debout, on va travailler. Je sais que tu n'arrives pas à supporter de perdre ta dignité, la femme. Viens, on va travailler. Je sais que tu ne veux pas vivre. Je sais que le monde aujourd'hui, et comme l'humain vient changer, je sais que tu ne supportes pas comme l'humain vient changer notre vie. La femme, lève-toi, viens, on va travailler. Je sais que tu ne supportes pas de perdre ta dignité. Tu as fermé les yeux à cause de la honte. Viens, la femme, on va travailler. Je suis femme, j'ai ouvert les yeux, j'ai ouvert mes yeux et je travaille. Je vous exhorte, la femme, viens, on va travailler. Toi qui as résisté depuis le temps, tu as toujours résisté. La femme, prends ton courage, lève-toi, viens, ouvre tes yeux, viens, on va travailler. Porte l'humanité comme ton bébé et récupère ta place. La femme, viens, on va travailler. Merci beaucoup pour ton courage et ta résistance. Viens, ouvre tes yeux, on va travailler. Merci beaucoup. Vive la journée internationale de la femme africaine. Je vous remercie.
A massive thank you to our sister Mado, our sister Nzita, who just gave us powerful words that aims to bring courage and empower the women to rise up. I'll try and summarize in English briefly, not everything, but for those who don't speak French, she said that as women we should not close our eyes, let's come and work. We've given birth, it's our responsibility to come and work. We have to carry humanity on our back and take courage and stand up and work. We have, she said about the courage that women carry, and through our courage and our resilience, let's stand up and work together. So she has set the scene really well for us, and I would like to take the opportunity now to welcome my other sister, Marie-Claire Farai, who's going to share a PowerPoint. Please bear with us while we bring it up and share it with you. And the PowerPoint will take us through the history of the work that our foremothers. It will take us through the history and introduce us to the work of our foremothers, that the legacy that our foremothers has given us at their time. So I'll share the screen right now. Welcome, Marie-Claire Farai.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody, and really we do apologize for the delay. As the invitation states, today we were hoping really to have a day where we commemorate the International African Women's Day, because we will be dedicating this day today to bring many African women out of the rubble of history in order to highlight their agencies, their exceptional personality, their spirituality, their political and economic and social, cultural and scientific powers, as well as their influence on the course of history in their society and even on that of the world. What I'm trying to achieve with this presentation is to show you some of the role that women have played pre-colonial, during the colonial era, as well as post-colonial era, because the history of the world has occulted, has silenced the role that African women have played over the centuries. And today we are just here to discover some of them. Some of them you might know, some of them you will discover, and we have also put, as you can see in the room, some of the modern ones. But now I'm going to be speaking about those who have really played a role in our continent. The presentation was both in French and in English to enable our sisters who are in the Francophone Africa to understand this presentation and to be included. As you know, Africa is a continent, because many people, they just speak about Africa like that without realizing actually that it is a big continent with multicultural, over 1,000 languages, over 1,000 ethnicity, over 1,000 culture but it's Africa. So many people don't understand the heterogeneity of Africa because they always look at it like a one country solution, like a country, but it's actually a huge continent. So it is extremely complex, it is extremely rich. There is so much going on in Africa, and so many has been done by women over the year, and many people always think that human rights is something that is Eurocentric, but it is not, because the ideology is not Western. It is an ideology that started back, and I will show you how African women have always been at the forefront of fighting for their rights, fighting for their place in society. And this has not started with the suffragettes. No, it has started with our foremothers when they were already challenging slavery over the years. And even in our own history as African, during the colonization era and the independence, they have also erased some of our foremothers, some of the African women who play a key role during the independence of African nations. And we will be also talking about our black other sister, because when we talk about Africa, we also have to include the African descent. So we will be talking about our Pan-African sisters in the States, in America, in Latin America, in Asia, because black people went all over, because migration is a human right. And if they say that Africa is the lands where civilization started, that means they have expanded in other continents. And actually, Africa was never discovered. It has always been there, and it's actually others who came to Africa. So for this presentation, first of all, I want to state that in order for us to understand what is human right, because so many people don't understand when we talk about our right, and there is always a misunderstanding, because when women stand up for their right, they actually stand up for everybody's right, because we say women's rights are human rights in general. Either you are, disabled, you have a sexual orientation, either you are rich or poor, everybody has human rights. And what are those human rights? They are first the right to live, the right to live in peace, the right to food, the right to health care, the right to education, the right to information, because if you don't know information, you might be in a situation where you can die because you have the wrong information. And this is a human right. The right to have a shelter, to have a place where you can shelter from wind, from sun, from the rain. You have the right to mobility. You have the right to work. You have the right to reproduce yourself. You have the right to have an opinion. You have the right to choose. And this is about human rights. And most of all is your right to autodetermination, your right to have your intellectual capacity and your economic capacity. It is a human right. It is a human right to be free to associate yourself to anybody. It is your right also to be in a country where you can be part of the governance of your country. So all this is about human rights, and many people don't understand what is human rights. And actually, the right to education gives you certain value that construct you as a human being, and you can develop yourself and actually come out of ignorance, because ignorance is what sometimes challenges society and bring hatred. Ignorance can kill, because if you don't know that you have two bottles that are clear, one of them has got acid, the other has water, and if you don't know and you drink the one with acid, you're going to die because you are ignorant. So that's why I really wanted to challenge, to introduce the notion of human rights, which are rights for men and for women. So African women have always fought for their human rights. That means their rights as women and also the rights of the men. So I also want to talk to you about equality, because so many misunderstandings when we stand up for equality. So many people think we're standing up for similarity. No, we're standing up for equality because we are equal. We are equal physiologically, because we all born and go through this programmation, conception, birth, development, and then death. This is what makes us equal. This physiological equality, legal equality, and for those who believe, who are believer, because Africa today has been invaded by foreign belief, because as you see in the invitation, we talk about Ubuntu. The Ubuntu principle makes us equal, and this were principle that we had already in Africa before invasion of some of the Western tradition and Western religion came, and even those Western religion, in them equality is there, because before God there is no man, there is no rich, there is no poor, everybody is equal. So the notion of equality is not about similarity, because we are not similar, we are different physiologically, we have different genes. Every human being genetically is unique. So we are unique, but at the same time, we are equal because we all go through the same process. And as the Universal Declaration in its Article 1 said, every human being is born free and equal in dignity and in right. I just told you about the right, our right to exist, our right to live. And it is also our right as African women to talk, to come together, to celebrate each other, to talk about our experience, to talk about our foremothers, and that's what we're going to do today. So as I explained to you, I'm going to be speaking about African women who have made an impact in their society, either constructive or destructive. But today we will be speaking about African women in general and Pan-African women. We will be speaking about all women who have African descent. They can be in the Caribbean, they can be in Africa or in America. We will be celebrating them because history has occulted them, history has silenced them. We don't hear enough about them. So there is some misconception stating those women lack agency. But we will demonstrate here those women have always had agency, and some of them actually have died because of their agency. So with this presentation, I would like to show you first, we will start by talking about the pre-colonial era. If you can see in the presentation, the pre-colonial era is actually the era before colonization, before slavery. That's what I want to show. And I'm going to just give you example. And at some point, women, you'll be welcome to share and tell me, oh, actually, I know, I'm not going to be talking about all the women. I've just selected a few examples to show you some of the women that are part of the pre-colonial era. And in respect with some of the greatest researchers in Africa, such as Cheikh Anta Diop, we will be talking about these women according to some of the research done with the philosophy that was introduced by Cheikh Anta Diop. As you know, Africa, the pyramids are in Africa, and all the builders and all the big power during the Egyptian era were in Africa. And we have one of the strongest character here, as I'm going to show you, Queen Nefertiti. She was one of the strongest women at that time in Egypt, that we can hear more about her, because a lot of people know about this woman, and but they don't realize that she rules with her husband, and she made a significant impact. That's why so many people hear about her, but there has a misconception that she was white. Actually, she was actually Afro. And not many people know actually that Nefertiti was an Afro woman. And over the years, even when you go to look at paper, they don't really explain. And so that there is a missing information there that can empower some of the young women, some of our children, to know that this big queen, this feminine status of Egypt was actually a black woman. So if you go back and read about her, put in mind that she was actually in Africa and she was actually a black woman. And I will also give you another example. I think you've heard about the Queen Saba Makeda of Ethiopia, she was also a black woman. And the history has actually occulted a lot about her. But I want you to take into consideration that we have some strong women here from Africa, and even if their ethnicity might not have been a strong melanin, but they were in Africa, and they play a significant role in their lands. And I don't know if any of you have heard about this woman from the Berber tribe called Kahina, and she was also an African. She actually was very, very instrumental during her time because she was a leader, she was a religious and a military leader who led indigenous resistance to Muslims, because when Muslims started conquering Africa around the Maghreb region, she stood up and she led the army, she led her people. And today when you go to Algeria, you hear about the Berber. It's a tribe, they're a very strong tribe, and this is a feminine figure of that tribe, and I will invite you to go and find out a bit more about her. So these are just the three examples of pre-colonial Africa. I don't want to go too in details about them. I will invite you to go and read. I actually have a book here because I know this session we were supposed to do some reading, and I want to share with you some of the books where you can read more about African women. There's a book called La Reine de Saba à Michelle Obama, and there are more books as well that you can find online that actually are written by Cheikh Anta Diop and other historian, where you can read more about African women. There are so many. I'm going to make a list of those books so you can find out about the antiquity, pre-colonial Africa, so that you can get some information to read a bit more about our foremothers. I'm going to be concentrating my time because a lot of misconception has been put forward, and stating that African women lack agency. You know, we are not there in a history book. We are always occulted. We are silent in many books. However, during the colonial period, I will show you the amount of women who resisted colonization. And there is also misconception today, particularly amongst our Pan-African sisters who live in America, other who lives in Latin America. They think that the African who remain in Africa have sold African to Caribbean. There was queen, there was king. But actually what they fail to understand is that there were big battles, so much resistance happened in Africa during the slavery time. And we will be showing you, we will be sharing with you some of the biggest figure of resistance to colonization. So one of the key women I want to talk to, and I think Mama Nzita is going to come and talk about her, Mama Kimpavita. She has been really one of the strongest human rights defender and a politician. She fought so much for human rights, for the dignity of Africa and of black people. And at some point, actually, she had such a strong mind that it became almost spiritual. And they actually have portrayed her through books as just a spiritual leader, without saying that actually she was a revolutionary, she was a politician, she was a defender, and she was defending her autodetermination as a human being, but also that of her people. She was such a threat to the Catholic enslaver that they burned her alive. They silenced her and they put fear on anyone who could try and imitate her. So I'm going to invite Mama Nzita here to come and share with us some highlights before I go into speaking about other resistors. Thank you, Mama Nzita. Even if she comes after, we will give her the floor again. We are here, she can talk anytime. Okay. Mama Nzita was going to speak with her, another of her colleagues, who is from the Caribbean, but both of them actually have prepared this presentation. but unfortunately, because we're running out of time, Mama Nzita is going to speak, and when our sister will come, she will also say something because she prepared something. Mama Nzita, you have the floor.
Merci beaucoup again and again. Thank you, Mama Marie-Claire and Farai. Thank you, chers conférenciers. Ça, c'est le livre de Mama Vita Kimpa. Si vous voulez l'histoire,
This is the book from Mama Kimpa Vita. If you want the book, you can find it there.
Ok. Bon, aujourd'hui, ne seront pas vraiment longs parce que son histoire, nous ne pouvons pas parler de Vita Kimpa sans parler de ce qui s'est passé avant qu'elle vienne, avant qu'elle naisse. Donc, nous devons aller un peu en arrière pour vous expliquer pourquoi Vita Kimpa est venue et pourquoi elle a fait cette révolution.
We cannot talk about Kimpa Vita or Vita Kimpa as they call her without contextualizing, talking about her past and explaining how she came about to do what she did.
Comme vous le savez, dans les temps, il y avait avant même la colonisation,
Before the colonization,
il y avait l'invasion. Les Blancs sont venus, les Portugais, les catholiques sont venus dans notre contrée, Congo.
there was an invasion of the white colonial who came in the Congo area.
Et pendant ce temps-là, quand ils sont venus, il y avait le roi Nzingakuvu. Je crois que tout le monde connaît l'histoire du roi Nzingakuvu.
When they came, there was a king called Zingakuvu. Many people know about him.
Ouais. Nzingakuvu, quand il était au pouvoir, quand il régnait en tant que roi, quand les catholiques ou bien les portugais sont venus, ils ont demandé d'avoir le baptême, comme ça il a changé son nom. C'est comme ça que nous avons commencé maintenant le problème, les turbulences et tout ça.
When the Portuguese came, they asked the king to change his name, and that's why there was all this turbulence because they wanted him to change his name and his culture.
Yeah. Quand il a changé ça, et bien, tout a basculé maintenant dans notre contrée. Il y avait maintenant le désordre de partout parce qu'il y avait un groupe qui ne voulait pas de baptême, il y avait un groupe qui voulait des baptêmes.
So when he was asked before to be baptized, there was some resistance. Some people didn't want him to be baptized and they didn't want the baptism, and others wanted. So it created some form of discord and a lot of disorder.
Oui, c'était vraiment le désordre partout. Alors, petit à petit, il est mort, il avait 2 enfants.
So the place was really chaotic all over the place. He died in the end and left 2 children.
Quand il était mort, les anciens ou bien les conseillers ont préféré prendre son fils aîné parce que lui, il avait encore la culture, il pouvait toujours réparer la faute de son papa.
So when one of his children has to come into power, the advisor wanted him, the son that had still some of the culture, the traditional culture, instead of the other one, and to repair what the father has done, because they felt that he has changed his culture.
Oui, le fils, son nom c'était Panzo Nzinga.
So the son called was Panzo Nzinga.
Panzo Nzinga, il a travaillé, en tout cas il avait travaillé, il a tout fait pour corriger l'erreur de son père.
So Panzo Nzinga tried his best to correct mistake made by his dad.
Les prêtres catholiques et les portugais ont vu qu'avec cette allure-là, ça n'allait pas. On a tué Panzo Nzinga, on a tué le fils Nzinga.
So when the Catholic priests saw that they couldn't really manipulate the son, Panzo Nzinga, they killed him and
ils ont remplacé maintenant Panzo Nzinga par son petit frère Mvemba Nzinga.
So they replaced him by his brother Mvemba Nzinga.
Mvemba Nzinga, c'est lui vraiment qui était l'homme des prêtres catholiques.
So Mvemba Nzinga was mostly supportive of the Catholics.
Sous son règne, il a conçu beaucoup d'églises.
Under his reign, he built so many churches.
À l'époque, comme il y avait d'autres groupes qui ne voulaient pas de ce qu'il faisait, il commençait maintenant à appeler le Congo, Congo Diangunga. Congo Diangunga signifie parce qu'il y avait des sons de cloches partout. Il disait que, regarde, Mbemanzinga, ce qu'il a fait, il a transformé notre pays, ça devient maintenant Congo Diangunga.
So those who were resisting this change of culture, they started calling Congo Wangunga, which means a country with so many bells, big bell, because there was so many bells, there were so many churches, the bell was ringing all the time, and you know, this was not their culture, so they started calling it Congo.
Et puis les peuples n'étaient plus unis, il y avait vraiment la division.
So there was the population were not united, there was division.
Il y avait, donc le fédéralisme était divisé vraiment.
So the federalism was divided. So Mama Nzita, could you say that the Congo at that time was a federal state?
C'était fédéral.
Yeah, it was a good governance.
Oui. Maintenant, après, quand Mbemanzinga, ce qui s'est passé à Mbemanzinga, c'était quoi? Il a envoyé son premier fils au Vatican.
So Mbemanzinga sent his first son to the Vatican.
Quand son fils est revenu, il a dit, papa, mais là où tu m'as envoyé, il ne parlait pas de Dieu. Moi, je pense que c'est ici que nous prions Dieu. Là, ils ne connaissent pas le vrai Dieu.
So when his son came back to Congo after his visit to the Vatican, he said, Dad, where you sent me, they're not talking about God, they don't know God. It's here, we in Congo, that we know
Je ne
God.
sais pas même pourquoi tu m'avais envoyé là.
Why you sent me there?
Il était vraiment mécontent. Il a pris les brevets qu'on lui avait donné. Il a tapé ça sur terre. Il a dit, en tout cas, je ne veux plus parler de tout ça. Je ne veux plus de tous ces gens-là.
He was so unhappy that he really banged that certificate that they gave him. He didn't want to hear any more about his trip to the Vatican.
Quand les Blancs ou les prêtres catholiques ont vu ça, ils ont dit, oh non, ce monsieur-là, c'est un traître. Parce qu'il est, notez bien, il est le premier évêque noir.
So when the Catholic priests saw that, and this was the first black bishop, so they saw him as a threat as well, and
ils ont dit non. Ils l'ont empoisonné.
So they poisoned him.
C'est comme ça qu'il y avait des troubles. Son père a commencé à regretter, il a dit, oh, mais moi je croyais que vous étiez venu au nom de Dieu, au nom de Jésus, vous avez mené la parole de Dieu, mais ce que vous êtes en train de faire, c'est le contraire, c'est même pas la parole de Dieu, c'est vous tapez vraiment à côté là. En tout cas, je suis plus d'accord avec vous.
So when his father realized that his son died, he felt betrayed. He didn't want to continue. He broke his alliance with the Catholic Church.
C'est comme ça qu'il y avait des troubles. À sa mort, il y avait un roi qui l'a remplacé, le roi Vitakanga.
So there was so much trouble. When he died, another king replaced him, Vitakanga.
Vitakanga, c'est lui maintenant qui a commencé. Il avait signé le bataille entre lui et le Portugais.
So Vitakanga is really the one who actually Vitakanga is the one who really signed a decree to start fighting the Portuguese.
Il avait son adjoint Abel Beladio, c'était Abel Beladio.
He has his assistant who was a priest as well, called Abel Beladio.
Ils ont lutté, ils ont combattu jusqu'à ce qu'on a coupé le roi Vitakanga.
They struggled so much to the point where the king was killed.
Parce que dans les temps, ils n'arrivaient pas à battre le nom, parce que nous on avait des flèches, on avait des missiles, ils ont fait venir les bateaux de guerre, ils ont fait venir les instruments de guerre.
The resistance was really strong, even though the Portuguese had boat-ship, warship. They in the Congo, people also had their own war instruments that they fought. It was very, very terrible.
Nous avons une place qu'on appelait Mbanza Congo, la capitale de Congo d'Antoti.
Yeah, we had a special place where they were called Mbanza Congo. It was the capital of Congo d'Antoti.
C'est là où il y avait des mystiques, c'est là où les Blancs ont compris que ils avaient des mystiques dans cette place. Il y avait aussi l'argent. Nous, on avait l'argent à cette époque-là. L'argent sautait de même sous la terre.
So the Portuguese realized that this is where is a stronghold, financial and intellectual and spiritual stronghold of.
C'est comme ça qu'ils ont quand ils ont coupé le roi Vitakanga la tête. Ils sont allés maintenant détruire Mbanza Congo. Ils ont brûlé tout ce qui était là-bas.
So they went there when they killed they this
Mbanza Congo,
yes.
Mbanza Congo,
Yeah,
la
but-
capitale des Congo de côté là.
Okay, so when they beheaded the king, that's why they went there and they tried to eradicate everything there in Banza Congo.
Il y avait des pleurs partout parce qu'il y avait plus de chefs de au pays.
So it was very distressing because people were crying, there were no leader in the country.
Après cela, il y avait des troubles partout, des
There was so
divisions,
much
tout ça.
trouble and division.
Il y avait une femme qui était debout, maintenant c'est Yaya Mafuta.
So there was a woman who stood up, her name was Yaya Mafuta.
Elle a dit on ne peut pas rester comme ça.
She said, we can't stay like that.
Elle allait maintenant de marcher à marcher parce que dans l'État il y avait une seule façon de communiquer, la seule façon de communiquer, il y avait le marché. Elle allait dans le marché, elle devait donner le message, nous devons
She was
prier pour
going
le
to
pays.
market. Market was a special place to communicate, so she was going to market to lift others.
Nous devons prier pour le pays parce qu'on ne peut pas rester comme ça.
We can't stay like that. We have to pray for the country.
Nous devons prier et puis c'était demander à tout le monde si vous venez au marché d'aller dire aussi aux gens qui n'étaient pas venus au marché, il fallait partager les nouvelles partout
She
par
was
là.
promoting and she was asking people in the market to go and bring the
Et
message to
puis
others who couldn't
elle était vraiment spirituelle. Quand elle parlait, ça, elle tremblait. Hein, elle
She
était
was very
spirituelle. Vraiment.
spiritual. She had a lot of.
Elle avait aussi son équipe de 12 disciples.
She also had her own disciples, 12 of them.
Après, quand elle a commencé, Maman Vitakip, elle est née en 1685.
Yes, when she started at that time in 1885,
Yeah.
Mama Kim Pavita, 1685, Kim Pavita was born.
Quand Maman Vita, elle était née, on l'appelait Vitakipa, mais quand elle était baptisée, on lui a donné le nom de Donna Béatrice.
When she was born, she was given the name of Kipa Vita, but when she was baptized, she was given the name of Beatrice, Donna Beatrice.
Donc, beaucoup de gens connaissent Maman Vita en tant que Donna Béatrice.
She's mostly known as Donna Beatrice.
Son histoire est écrite vraiment avec le nom de Donna
Her
Béatrice.
story is written by under the name of Donna Beatrice.
Quand elle a reçu aussi le message, alors dans l'État, il n'y avait que des églises, on ne pouvait rien faire. Maintenant, quand Maman Mafuta allait donner des messages par-ci, par-là, il y a Vitakipa, elle aussi, elle priait à Saint-Antonio, l'église de Saint-Antonio.
So as Mama Mafuta was spreading the word of encouragement, Mama Kim Pavita was also praying at Saint Antonio, and that's where they met.
Quand elle a pris la nouvelle, quand elle a pris cette nouvelle, elle aussi, elle a abandonné l'église pour aller rejoindre Maman Mafuta.
So when she heard the words that Mama Mafuta was speaking, she was inspired and she left the church. She went to gather with Mama Mafuta.
Les catholiques n'étaient pas d'accord et commençaient à pourchasser les gens qui priaient pour le pays.
Catholic priests were not happy. They started chasing and targeting people who were praying differently.
C'est comme ça qu'ils ont décidé de faire des groupes de gens.
That's how they decided the resistance movement. They started having small groups of people around.
Petit à petit, les églises commençaient à perdre les fidèles.
So slowly, Catholic Church started losing, how do you call them? Members, yeah, yes, followers and members, yeah.
Après, Maman Vitakimpa, elle est tombée malade.
Mama Kimpavita, after time, she fell ill.
Elle était morte
It seems she was dead
pendant 3 jours.
for 3 days.
Comme dans cette époque-là, il y avait des groupes par-ci, leurs parents aussi étaient partis dans un autre groupe, dans un autre village. Ils étaient partis pour prier pour le pays.
So as there were so many groups, some people were moving in between. Some of her group went away.
Maintenant, dans les temps, on ne pouvait pas enterrer un enfant si ses parents ne sont pas là.
So during that time, a child could not be buried if her parents were not there.
Et tant qu'on attendait ses parents, c'était 3 jours maintenant depuis qu'elle était morte.
Okay, by the time they were waiting for her parent to return, it was already 3 days since she was dead.
Le 3e jour, ses parents sont venus, et maman Pipavita, elle s'est réveillée.
So 3 days after, when her parents were coming back, suddenly she woke up.
Quand elle est réveillée, les gens, il a vu le monde, il a demandé c'est quoi, qu'est-ce qui s'est passé. Je lui ai dit, mais toi, tu étais morte.
So people told her when she came back to her that she was unconscious and they said she was dead.
Elle a dit, non, 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 moi, j'étais pas morte.
So she told them that she actually wasn't dead.
Je suis allée étudier, on m'a appris, Mwela Congo, c'est l'esprit Congo. Les ancêtres Congo m'ont pris, ils m'ont mis quelque part, je suis allée apprendre.
So she told
Ils
them actually that
m'ont initié.
she was unconscious and she actually went with in her spirituality, she was initiated by some of her ancestors to the ancestor, the Congo ancestor.
Et on lui a dit, voilà ta mission et ça, et ça, et ça.
So they told her what was her mission.
Quand elle est réveillée, elle a résisté parce que les gens disent qu'il y a que Jésus qui est ressuscité des morts.
Yeah, when she came back to her, in her culture, she actually have risen from dead. But so many people just say that it's Jesus, but actually she said she has also risen from
3
the dead.
days after, donc 3 jours
3 days
après.
after,
Et
yeah.
après, quand elle est réveillée, elle a commencé maintenant son travail.
So when she actually became conscious, she started back again. her
Elle a vu
work.
les désordres qui s'étaient installés partout dans les Mbanza Congo.
So she saw all this disorganization and disorder that was in Banza Congo.
Elle a dit maintenant nous allons mettre de l'ordre.
So she said, now we have to
Elle
organize
a formé
everything.
12 disciples.
She trained 12 disciples.
Maman Mafuta aussi avait 12 disciples.
Mama Mafuta also had 12 disciples.
Toutes les deux maintenant ils ont combiné.
So they combined their disciples
Maintenant ils ont commencé à travailler.
and they started working together.
Maman Vita Kipe, elle a dit maintenant nous allons travailler, nous allons lutter contre tous ces gens ici.
And so that's how they got the strength to fight and to resist those people.
Qu'est-ce que nous allons faire? Nous allons mener en Banza Congo.
So they decided to go to Mbanza Congo.
Et nous allons reconstruire Mbanza Congo.
And they decided to rebuild Mbanza Congo.
Il y avait le monde derrière Maman
They
Vita
had
Congo.
so many followers.
À l'église, il n'y avait plus de gens.
In churches, there were nobody.
Alors les prêtres catholiques étaient très mécontents.
So the Catholic priest was very
Donc
disappointed and very
ils
unhappy.
n'étaient plus contents parce qu'ils avaient vu que cette dame, elle est venue nous détruire, elle est venue nous détruire.
So they saw her as a threat to their power.
Elle avait vraiment le pouvoir.
She had the power.
Parce qu'à cette époque-là, il y avait le roi, il y avait, imaginez dans un seul royaume, mais il y avait 2 rois.
And can you imagine in that kingdom at that time there were 2 kings.
Il y avait Ndompetolo
There were Ndompetolo
et Ndonzwao.
and Donzwao, 2 kings.
Maintenant, elle a dit, tous les deux là, vous ne travaillez plus.
So she decreed that those 2 should not be in.
Elle a demandé aux 2 rois de remettez-moi les statuts de pouvoir que vous avez.
So she asked them to relinquish the power to her.
Bon, Ndopetolo a remis ce qu'il avait.
Donpetolo gave it to her.
Ndonzwao aussi a remis ce qu'il avait.
Donzwao also gave it to
Quand
her.
elle a pris tous ses pouvoirs,
When she got those powers,
elle a décidé maintenant que nous allons maintenant construire Mbanza Congo.
so she decided to move forward in trying to rebuild
Mais
Mbanza Congo.
c'était loin, c'était à 200 km.
It was 200 kilometers away from where she
Ils
was.
sont allés construire Mbanza Congo.
They went there to attempt
Il y
to
avait des jeunes, il
rebuild.
y avait le monde derrière Maman Vita Kipa.
There were so many people behind them.
Parce que Maman Mafout, elle avait déjà veillé. Elle a dit, bon, moi je te donne tous mes disciples à travailler. Je te donne aussi ce pouvoir-là.
So as Mama Mafuta was aging, she actually left Mama Kimpavita to undertake that leadership.
Maman Vita Kipa, elle est partie, ils ont reconstruit Mbanza Congo.
They started to rebuild Mbanza Congo.
Quand ils ont terminé, il y avait des parcelles qu'on a remis aux gens. Toi, tu prends tes parcelles, toi, tu prends, et vous allez continuer le travail.
They started rebuilding Mbanza Congo.
C'est comme ça. C'est comme ça. Ben, pendant tout ce temps-là, les prêtres catholiques et les portugais cherchaient comment ils vont.
During that time, the Catholic priests were trying to see how
comment ils vont finir avec cette femme.
How they will demobilize that woman.
Parce qu'elle était vraiment au-dessus, même les blancs et les catholiques, personne ne pouvait contourner Maman Vitaki.
Because she has so much autodetermination that nobody was trying to put her up. She was resisting every threat, and she could not be bullied and anything.
Imaginez quelqu'un qui a repris le pouvoir des deux rois.
Can you imagine someone who took power from two kings?
Elle avait quel âge? 21 ans
She
seulement.
was only 21,
Et puis elle était vierge.
and she was also a
C'est
virgin.
la Vierge Marie qu'on a changé maintenant à la dame que nous connaissons.
Okay, so her story actually seems to have been taken up by by whom we see today as Mary.
Yeah. Elle était vierge, elle ne connaissait pas les hommes.
She was a virgin. She hasn't had any intercourse with men.
Mais elle avait une statue.
She had a status.
La statue, c'était une femme, maman qui porte son enfant, son bébé.
She had a baby in her arms.
C'est comme ça qu'il y a d'autres personnes qui ont changé son histoire pour dire que quand on l'avait brûlée, elle avait l'enfant au dos.
So that's why some people change her story, stating that when they burned her alive, she had a baby on her back.
Elle n'avait pas l'enfant, elle n'avait pas...
She didn't have children.
Parce qu'elle était vierge.
Because she was a virgin.
Quand elle a terminé le travail de construire Banza Congo,
When she finished working in rebuilding Banza Congo,
il a laissé les autres, il y avait les gens qui ont regagné Banza Congo parce que Banza Congo était détruit, personne ne pouvait habiter là-bas.
because Banza Congo was destroyed, nobody could live there.
Bon, il y avait les gens, il a laissé les gens là-bas, il a dit bon, moi je vais poursuivre ma mission.
So she left some of her disciples there, and she went elsewhere to
Ils ont
continue
dit
her mission.
continuez jusqu'à ce que vous allez remplir Banza Congo.
So they told her to continue her work until she would fill the place and rebuild the place.
Elle est venue, elle a dit bon, maintenant, ça c'était ma première mission.
That's when she came, she said that was her first mission.
Deuxième mission, maintenant, moi-même, je vais élire le roi. Je vais mettre le roi sur place.
Her second mission now, she said she was going to be part of those who were going to elect a king.
Maintenant, nous allons entrer nous allons prier, nous irons à la forêt pendant 40 jours.
So she asked people to go and reflect in the forest for 40 days
Avec ses disciples.
with her disciples.
Comme ça, nous aurons le temps de savoir qui nous allons mettre à place. Comme ça, l'Esprit va nous conduire, nous diriger, qui nous allons mettre en place.
Yeah, they wanted to have a clear conscience and a spiritual conscience to select someone that were going to be nominated.
Quand ils sont allés, comme les catholiques et les portugais suivaient tous ces mouvements,
As the Catholic Portuguese were following, were spying on them,
ils ont appris que Maman Vitakipa, elle est maintenant à la forêt avec ses
so
disciples.
they
sont allés
found
la
out
prier.
that King Pavita was in the forest with her disciples.
Ils ont demandé toute une armée.
They sent an army.
Ils ont encerclé maintenant la forêt.
They circled the forest.
Ils ont commencé à tuer tous les gens qui étaient à côté d'elle.
So they started killing people who were around her.
Mais ils ont demandé à Maman Vitakipa, dit nous on veut pas te tuer.
They told King Pavita that they didn't want to kill her.
Ce que nous voulons de toi, il faut que toi, nous allons rentrer au village, que tu dises devant tous les gens que ton message là était un faux message. Pour que les gens retournent encore dans les églises.
So what they did is actually they tried to persuade King Pavita to denounce publicly her resistance and what she was, and to tell the people that the message that she was giving was wrong, so that people could come back to church.
Vitakipa ne répondait pas.
She didn't respond.
Ils ont dit Vitakipa, nous n'avons pas l'envie de te tuer.
They told her they didn't want to kill her.
Nous voulons seulement ce que nous demandons, Elle a vu, elle a tué tout le monde qui est à côté d'elle.
So she, even though she saw that everybody around her was killed, and that they continued to say that she has to renounce her newfound faith and to go back to the Catholic Church, she still refused.
Elle a dit, moi je connais vos pensées.
She stated that she knew their thinking.
Ah non, ce que vous voulez, c'est de me tuer.
She knew that they wanted to kill her.
Mais vous allez tuer seulement ce corps aussi.
She said, you were only going to kill
Mais mon
this,
esprit, vous n'allez pas toucher
but
ça.
you're not going to kill my spirit,
Et vous
my...
n'allez pas aussi détruire mon travail, tout ce que j'ai fait.
So she said they were not going to kill all the work that she did in the...
Je regrette, mais en tout cas, je ne vais rien changer.
So she resisted.
Parce que les gens qui m'ont demandé de faire cette mission, je ne peux pas je veux pas les désobéir.
Because she didn't
pour
want
vous
to,
obéir.
she didn't want to let down those with whom she was already working toward that mission.
La mission qu'on m'avait donnée, je vais les remplir jusqu'à la fin.
So the mission that she thought was given to her, she said she will do it up to the end.
Arrivé maintenant le 1er juillet,
On the 1st of July,
1706,
1706,
on lui a demandé encore vite à qui, nous sommes la nuit. Ils ont demandé aux gens de venir avec beaucoup de combien?
yeah, they
bois,
came
le
with
bois,
braids
ouais.
and people came with wood.
On lui a montré vraiment comment
They
le feu
show
était là.
her how the fire is there.
Vite à
They
Kipa, on te donne la dernière chance. Nous
gave
sommes
her
la
last
nuit.
chance
Il n'y
again.
a pas de gens ici,
In the
nous sommes
night,
seulement avec
telling
toi
her,
ici à la
with you,
forêt.
look how you might die.
Regarde le feu là.
Look at the fire.
Tu veux entrer dans ce
You want
feu là,
to
tu
go
veux que ton
into that
jette dans
fire?
le
Do
feu
you
là.
want to die?
Elle les regardait.
She was just looking at them.
Elle ne disait rien.
She
Maintenant,
didn't
comme elle ne
say-
répondait pas, on répond les imbéciles par le silence.
As they respond to imbecile by silence,
Ils ont dit non, cette femme-là, elle prend pour des imbéciles. On a commencé à tabasser Maman Vitaki.
so because at that time it was perceived if you don't answer, that means you're taking people for imbeciles. So they started beating her.
On a tabassé Maman
They beat
Vitaki.
her.
Elle avait le sang partout.
She was bleeding from all over.
Elle ne disait rien.
She was not saying anything.
Elle ne disait rien.
She was not saying anything.
Arrivé le 2 juillet,
On the 2nd of July,
on a dit on te donne, ça c'est toute dernière chance qu'on te donne, la
that
dernière
was
chance qu'on te
her
donne.
last chance,
Si tu ne dis
to
rien,
change her
on va
mind.
se jeter dans le feu.
and to speak.
Tu vas
If she
être
doesn't, they will,
mutilé.
they will kill her, they will mutilate her,
On a
and
commencé à tabasser encore.
they started beating her again.
Pendant qu'elle pleurait, elle regrettait,
As she was crying and regretting,
elle était maltraitée.
she was mistreated.
Elle a fermé les yeux,
She closed her eyes.
elle a commencé à voir maintenant.
She started
Elle a vu un escalier,
She saw
il y avait un
some
escalier, il y
stairs.
avait les gens qui montaient, il y avait l'autre escalier de l'autre côté, les gens qui descendaient.
People were coming down, others were going up.
Elle a vu tous les gens qui étaient venus avant tous les prophètes, les messagers qui étaient venus avant elle.
She saw those who came before her.
Et on
those
lui a
who
montré,
fought
on lui a
before
montré
her,
encore les gens qui viendront après elle.
and the other who are going to
On
come
lui a dit,
after
ne
her.
regrette rien, ton combat va continuer.
So they told her, don't regret anything, your struggle will continue.
Et ton combat va continuer.
And your struggle will
Tu
continue.
vois tous ces gens-là qui viendront derrière.
See all these
Elle a
people
vu
who are
tous
going
ces
to
gens-là,
come
elle a
after
pris
you.
courage.
So when she
Et
saw
elle a
that
commencé à
she
sourire
had
malgré qu'elle
the
avait,
courage,
malgré qu'elle avait
even
des
though
plaies
she
partout, des sangs
bleeding, she
partout.
was bruised, she was crying, blood was coming out of her body. but
Elle
she
disait,
took courage.
elle a dit, oh, je suis en train de voir maintenant l'Asie. L'Asie est en train de monter l'Asie.
That,
Mais il y a
she
une
saw
étoile
Asia,
qui
she
tourne
saw-
jusqu'à ce
she
que
saw a
l'étoile-là
star.
va rentrer au Congo.
So she said that she was seeing a star that was traveling around and one day it will come back to her land.
Ce combat va continuer jusqu'à ce que cette étoile-là de promesse.
The struggle will continue until that star, that promised star, will come back.
L'étoile de promesse est ici au Congo.
So the promised star is there in Congo.
Le pays que tout le monde cherche, c'est le Congo.
The land that everybody wants. is
Le pays
here.
que Dieu a tout donné, c'est le Congo.
The country that was
Il y a
given
une
everything
richesse
is
que
there.
nous ne parlons pas.
There is a lot
On ne
of
parle que des
wealth.
richesses sous-sol.
They only
Mais
talking
on ne
about
parle pas de la richesse spirituelle.
They're not talking
Nous Nous
gospel
sommes
to-
les premiers en spiritualité.
Yeah, we are the first
La
in
vraie
spirituality.
spiritualité.
The true
La spiritualité, le Dieu que nos ancêtres avaient servi.
Yeah, the-
Ça, c'est notre
so
spiritualité.
that's what
C'est ce qui va nous donner cette
from the
force-là
God that
d'avoir
they were
cette...
praying.
C'est ce qui nous va donner cette force-là d'avoir c'est la liberté totale que nous cherchons.
That will give us the freedom that we have been
La
looking
spiritualité
for.
que Maman Vitakip avait pratiquée.
That spirituality that she practiced,
La spiritualité que Kimba a pratiquée.
the same one that Kimbangu practiced,
Avec nos ancêtres, tous
with
les
our
grands
ancestors
leaders.
and all the leaders,
Cet esprit-là va continuer à
that
lutter
spirit will continue to struggle
jusqu'à ce que nous aurons l'indépendance
until we will
totale.
have the total independence.
Elle a dit,
She said
quand elle était au feu,
when she was in the braise, in the
elle a
fire,
commencé à crier.
she started screaming.
Elle a crié, Yesu,
She cried, Jesus,
Yesu,
Jesus,
Yesu.
Jesus.
Je vais traduire. Talama vanga mamindele. Regarde le comportement des Blancs.
Look at the behavior of white
Banata
people.
kumba kuku Congo. Ils ont amené ton nom au Congo.
They brought your name here in Congo
Mukuza tengo la menga mabana ba Congo. Pour venir faire sortir le sang de peuple Congo.
so they came to make Congolese people bleed.
Elle a crié au feu.
So she was screaming when she was being burned.
Dieu merci, comme les Blancs aiment toujours écrire tout.
Thank God, as the white people, they like to write everything.
Ils ont écrit ça aussi.
They wrote it down as well.
Elle a crié Yesu,
She
Yesu,
died screaming, Jesus,
Yesu.
Jesus.
Talama vanga
They said,
bamindele,
look at
banata kumba
the white people
Congo,
came to bring
baufonge fumu
your name in
Yesu,
Congo, and they were
batuma
hurting
bizateru la
other
menga
people
bana
in
ba
Congo.
Congo.
Yeah.
Mwela Congo, Mwela
People of
Congo,
Congo.
Mwela Congo, c'est-à-dire l'esprit Congo,
Spirit of
l'esprit
Congo,
Congo,
Spirit of Congo.
l'esprit Congo.
Spirit of
Peuple
Congo
Congo est toujours vivant.
is still alive.
Peuple Congo est toujours vivant.
Congo,
Peuple Congo est toujours vivant. Après, elle était morte.
Then she died.
Elle est partie.
Then she went.
Après 40 jours, elle a commencé à sortir. Elle apparaissait quoi.
After 40 days, people started visioning. They start dreaming about her, and they start.
Parce qu'elle avait dit que nous allons faire un carême
she
de
said
40
that we
jours.
would do 40 days of fasting.
Elle a continué aussi à apparaître. Et puis, elle continue toujours à donner de
She
motivation,
continued
toujours
to
dans sa
motivate
lutte.
people, even though she was dead, but her work and spirituality continued to motivate.
Elle a continué
people.
toujours son travail.
She continued, her work continued.
Mais quand il y avait le bruit, maintenant ils ont dit non, apparemment on l'avait tué, on l'avait brûlé. Il y avait des gens qui avaient des fuites, ils ont commencé, il y avait maintenant des murmures un peu partout.
So a lot of people started hearing about what was happening. People said, but we thought she died. You know, how come this movement is still ongoing?
Et on continue à la voir partout par là. Et elle continue toujours sa mission là
So they were astonished that the mission was still alive.
Et la vie, eh ben non, parce que il y a maintenant une confusion totale.
There was total confusion.
Les Blancs ne voulaient pas dire.
The whites didn't want to say
Les
that they
prêtres
killed her.
catholiques l'avaient
The
tué, n'avaient
Catholics
rien dit
didn't want to
aussi.
say that they
Comme
killed
si
her,
rien
as
n'était
if
passé.
nothing happened.
Elle est partie.
Relation,
Tel que vous me voyez là.
as you see me
On m'avait
there.
déjà tué
They've
depuis le
already
2
killed
juillet.
me.
J'étais déjà brûlé depuis le 2 juillet.
That I'm
Mais
already
le témoin qui
died.
était là, c'était le
But
roi
the witness who
Ndopeto.
was there was one of the king.
Le roi Ndopeto le sait ça.
Yeah, the king knows that I was killed.
Oh, il y avait encore des troubles au pays.
So when people found out that
Il y
she
avait encore
died,
des
there was
pleurs
so
partout.
much trouble. People were.
Ils ont dit, oh, si l'année est ainsi maintenant, nous aussi nous allons tuer Ndopeto.
So people now, the population stated that as the king was involved, they wanted to kill him as well.
On va le tuer, on va le mutiler là où on avait mutilé. Il y a
So they wanted to kill him and mutilate the king where King Pavita died.
Quand on est parti, il y avait des mondes un peu partout. Il y avait maintenant, on détruisait maintenant les églises catholiques.
Yeah. as there was so much trouble, the population started destroying Catholic churches.
On ne voulait même pas voir des
They
statues,
didn't want to
pas de
see
croix, rien
the
du tout.
cross, nothing. They wanted to destroy all the symbols of
Quand vous
Catholicism.
avez détruit Maman Vita
As
Kipa, nous allons détruire
People
tout
were
aussi.
saying as they killed her, they will destroy also the
Les
Catholic
Blancs
Church.
ont vu ça, c'était terrible.
So the white people were there, saw that.
Ils ont
They
dit,
thought
oh
it
non,
was
non, ce
very
n'est pas
terrible.
nous, c'était nos
They say it
bébés.
wasn't them. They put all the blame on the king.
Comme le noir a toujours aussi un problème, on nous fait porter tous les fardeaux. Non?
So most of the time, the black people carry the weight.
Le roi de Pelo a dit, non, 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 c'est pas moi.
The king also said that it wasn't him.
Moi, quand Vita Kipa était venu, moi j'avais remis tout ce que j'avais.
So he actually said that
Je
he
n'avais
gave,
plus besoin de pouvoir parce que moi
he didn't
j'étais
have
rentré
any
chez moi.
power. He gave the.
Ce sont les prêtres catholiques, Père de Ronald Dagalo et Bernard Dalouka. Ce sont les deux prêtres là qui l'avaient
He
tué.
blamed the priest for killing
Ce
him.
n'est pas moi. Moi, je ne connais pas ça. Et après, c'était comme ça. Alors, les Blancs, quand nos pères l'a dit, ce n'est pas nous, ils ont changé encore l'histoire.
When the Peto stated that it wasn't him, the Catholic
Ils
priest,
ont
the
dit, oh,
white
non, non,
Catholic
non,
priest, changed again the story.
Vita Kipa, elle faisait des
They start saying
maraboutages,
that she was
elle
into
était fétichère.
occultism,
On
she was
l'avait
a
trouvé,
sorcerer.
on
They
l'avait
said she was
trouvé
a witch.
dans les
That
déserts,
they
elle
found
faisait des
her.
fétiches comme ça,
Yeah, that's
comme
why they
c'est
say
interdit à l'église
they
catholique,
kill
c'est
her
comme ça.
because it was
Ouais, on
forbidden
l'avait
in
tué.
church to do certain things. So they make her, they made their, how can I say, they portray her as a witch.
Mais les Noirs aussi, il n'y a pas de problème. Comme vous l'avez tué comme un witch, nous allons sur vous tuer. Tous les Blancs ne voulaient plus tout pouvoir.
So at that time there was so much trouble. The black people they started saying that they didn't want to see all the white Catholic priests. They said they're going to kill them.
Ils ont changé encore. Non, non, non,
They
Vita
changed again the story.
Kipa, elle avait accouché au
They
village
said
comme
that
elle était
she gave birth.
notre
in the
fille de
village.
l'église.
They
Elle était spirituelle, elle ne
assassinate
pouvait
her
pas
character.
supporter
They
ça. C'est
stated
comme
that
ça qu'on
because she
l'avait
was in
tuée.
the church, she couldn't disgrace the church. That's why they killed her.
Le peuple comme ont demandé. Pourquoi vous n'avez pas tué dans la Bible, dans votre Bible que vous avez amené ici?
They asked them in your Bible that you brought in the land, in our land.
Abraham, elle avait scenté Agar. Il avait donné l'argent de dot à qui?
They said Abraham had a child with Agar in your Bible. So who did he give the dowry to?
Pourquoi vous n'avez pas tué cette
Why
femme
didn't
et
you
la
kill?
femme?
Why in your Bible they didn't kill that woman who had a child with Abraham?
Vous avez le roi, un roi qui avait tué son soldat. Il avait pris la femme de quelqu'un. Pourquoi vous n'avez pas tué? Pourquoi vous n'avez pas
So
tué
they
ce
gave the
roi?
example of King Solomon or David who took his general's wife. So they say, why he wasn't killed? Why did you just have to kill King Pavita?
They said, non. Jésus qui est le Fils de Dieu, qui est votre Dieu, il est né dans cette lignée-là des gens qui ont péché.
So
Pourquoi vous
they
n'avez pas
stated,
tué votre Jésus?
why you didn't kill your Jesus? He was born from the lining of people who also had sins. So why did you kill King Pavita?
Pourquoi
So they were asking all these
Tout
questions.
ce qui est donné comme raison n'était pas
Even though they
accepté.
were trying to justify themselves, but the population didn't accept it.
Ils ont changé maintenant de
So
version.
they changed again.
Ils ont dit,
another-
bon,
they had
maintenant nous,
another-
on va rien faire. Ils ont donné l'argent de pétrole.
So they stated they were not going to do anything. They were going to give the money to the king.
Ils ont donné aussi l'argent à Ndonzoa.
And they gave it to the other king because the king were competing.
Ils ont dit à Ndopéto, toi tu vas là-bas convaincre les gens, il n'y aura plus de guerre, c'est fini, nous on va plus prendre votre pouvoir, c'est toi qui deviens le roi, c'est toi qui vas tout diriger, nous on va
So
plus...
they relinquished the power to that king.
Ils ont parti aussi chez Ndonzoa.
Yeah, they also went to the other kingdoms.
Comme
well.
les Blancs ou les catholiques aiment toujours diviser,
As the Catholics, they like to divide, to
pour bien
conquer,
régner.
to reign.
Ndonzoa, lui, ne savait pas qu'on avait donné aussi l'argent à Ndopéto.
So the two kings were not aware that money was
C'est comme ça il y a encore eu des batailles parce que
and that's why there was so much more war
Ndonzo il a
and so
cru
much
que
more
c'est lui
problems.
qui devrait diriger Ndopéto. pensait que c'est lui aussi qui devait diriger.
So one thought he was going to be the leader, the other one also thought
C'est
that he was
c'est
going
par
to be
là
the leader.
que c'est par là que ils ont fini cette histoire de Yavita parce qu'ils ont mis encore un autre désordre. S'il vous plaît, ils ont dit ils ont.
So that's how they managed to stop the movement or the awareness raising that King Pavita brought into the population. All that they managed to put the king one against each other and to bring more trouble and to divide the people who were conscientized by King Pavita. That's how they managed to do it.
Mais Yavita qui parlait, elle avait dit il y aura des résistances que vous n'allez plus contrôler.
But she predicted that they will still resist and those people will not be able to control that resistance.
C'est cette résistance que nous sommes en train de faire aujourd'hui.
So it's that resistance that a lot
Nous avons cet
that
esprit-là
we
de
have
Yavita
to
qui parle.
resist our determination. We have that spirit in us.
Son
We have
histoire
that
est très longue, mais j'ai
conscientization.
résumé
The story
seulement.
is very long, but
Elle avait fait beaucoup de choses, mais
she
le
did a
temps, c'est
lot
le
of
temps.
things, but because of time, I have to stop.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
No.
Thank you,
Votre
Mama
attention.
Zita.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay, so as I stated earlier, we will continue now with the example. As you see, King Pavita, she was in Congo, but if you look at other women who actually resisted colonization, you have the story of Anakoana, who was actually a peaceful leader who also resisted, who tried to coexist with Spanish colonizer for some time, but that didn't last. As you can see, even with the story of King Pavita, the things started soon getting out of hand, and she was also killed. There's several examples that I will show you in the history. There is this woman who went to Jamaica as a slave, and she became actually a queen there in Jamaica, as she also motivated her people to their autodetermination. But when the British saw that she was actually leading into some form of revolt, they also killed her. And we will show you also, there are so many examples here. We also have one called Ablapoku from Ghana. She actually took her people under oppression. She took them to Ivory Coast. So all these people from Ivory Coast, from Ghana, they went to Ivory Coast. All these people from Ivory Coast called Baoulé are actually people that were taken from Ghana during still this period of turmoil of colonization where people were fighting each other. So it's just to show you how these women were actually very strong in leading armies, in leading their population. Here actually, she made people move from one area to another. It's just to show you the strength that women had during that time. And also we have the story of this woman called Maria. She actually also led a rebellion in Curaçao. So this is really to show you how many women during that same period. And we also have an example, and this is a woman in Nigeria called Madame Tinubu. We don't hear much about her. Actually, she was part of those women who was actually trying to also integrate. So to tell you that some of them tried to use another way to end slavery. She actually started herself becoming a merchant of slaves. In the history of the book, you can hear actually she was extremely ambitious. She stated to herself, let me try and become powerful and then maybe try to abolish slavery. But she really didn't succeed. And nobody talks a lot about the work that was done by this woman to empower herself economically during that colonial era in Nigeria. And here you have another one that they call Flore Boagaya. She was enslaved in St. Lucia in 17th and during the first Brigand War in 1794, and she became a leader of a group herself. And you have also the example of Carlota the Rebel, which I will invite you to go and read a little bit about her, because part of her motivation, she's actually a descendant of a slave that came from Yoruba, and she was so powerful that many people actually state that her name resonates with various resistance movements in Cuba during the Cuba Revolution. So I will invite some of you to go and find out a little bit more about her. There's also a lady they call La Mulatresse de Solitude in Guadeloupe. She was actually a historical figure and a heroine in the fight against slavery on French Guadeloupe. She has been the subject of legend and symbol in women resistance in the struggle against slavery in the history of the island. And here we have also this woman here. I just want to put her. She was actually a sovereign. She reigned for many years, and her reign was marked by resisting colonization in Madagascar during her reign. So she's also a figure of resistance. And we have the story of Kanjogera in Rwanda. Maybe Marie-Lise, do you want to come and speak about Kanjogera? Where is Marie-Lise? Yeah, do you want to come and speak about Kanjogera? Because I thought at this time, do you want to come and speak about her? Yeah. Marie-Lise is from Rwanda, so she's best placed to speak about Kanjogera.
Right. Yes, I'll speak about Kanjogera briefly. Kanjogera was one of the queen mothers she was a queen mother who was given a king who wasn't his son. So she was one of the powerful elite women of Rwanda whose name has survived in the present, and she was called Queen Mother Kanjogera, and her reign was in 1895 to 1931. She well known in the modern Rwanda popular culture for overthrowing her adopted son Rutarindwa, who reigned between 1895 and 1896, so that her biological son Musinga could be the king. She then exterminated those in the court as well, and who are allegedly opposing the reign of her son. Having eliminated the main threats to Musinga's rule, Kanjogera settled into a more acceptable role as the Queen Mother, which involved serving in the public as a dutiful mother and supporting her son's leadership from behind the scene. So, just to briefly cut the story short, really, she was labeled as ruthless, but she's also a symbol of how women, especially in Rwanda, how the Rwandan leadership is very anxious. So Rwanda is well known as a country that has many women in the leadership. However, those women have no power really. It's been written and informed in different parts of the world and by different researchers. It's been documented by different researchers that even though there is so many women in Rwandan leadership positions, their influence is very minimal. And in my opinion, I felt like, and this also has happened previously post-colonial, where most women who came into power were referred to as Kanjogera because of their ruthlessness. So her behavior had contributed, even though she was a leader, she was very powerful, her leadership has created a form of anxiety in the patriarchal society, whereby they feel like women, when they get into power, they become so ruthless and they commit so much killing and so much transgressions, so that then they are not fully given power that they need. But that's what has been documented. It's yet to be proven and should not really put off women who want to start up in leadership. Later on this afternoon, we're going to be able to listen to another woman from Rwanda called Victoire Ingabire, who has managed to aspire beyond this label that has put on to the Rwandan women, and has her determination, has resilience in continuing to bring the voices of the Rwandan women on the table will be shared later this afternoon. So I'll pass back to Marie-Claire to complete her presentation before we go on a break in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And actually, just to explain a little bit, Marie-Lise and I are co-chairing this event. And as you know, Congo and Rwanda for over 30 years now, near 30 years, we are in a war. Women have to demonstrate that we want to change the way the Great Lake region of Africa is being governed. And one of the key things why we are co-chairing today is also to show that beyond the politics, there are human beings. And human beings have to discuss and they have to look at where they can meet each other and how they will respect each other, they will value each other and try to find solution. Where we see in the Great Lake region, there's been so many deaths in Rwanda and in Congo. There's a genocide that was in Rwanda, but the genocide in Congo is not being recognized. And also the fact that Rwanda has invaded Congo and is supported by multinational and by UN Security Council, it's really a threat to Congolese life and a breach of our security. And it is very important for us as women to seek justice and peace for a future generation. And that's one of the reasons also that we wanted to co-chair this event today together. So I will continue with some of the example of the women. I think some of you might have heard about the three rebel queen. They call them the Queen of the Fire Burn because they mounted a revolution in the US Virgin Islands in 1878. And these women actually, when they mounted the revolution, at that time it was a Danish colony, and some of the women actually were taken and sent to prison abroad in Denmark. One of them is called Mary Thomas, and today the Danish people have actually recognized that they did wrong to her because they mounted the revolution against the treatment that they were receiving in the plantation. And many people died, but those three women who led the revolt against Danish colonial rule, today they actually there's a status of this Mary Thomas in Copenhagen, I think, where it's actually a form of reparation to restore the moral discrimination and moral, I'm trying to find the right word to explain what the Danish people wanted to say as a form of reparation. They made this status of her in recognition that they did wrong during slavery. So here we have another example of a woman from Senegal called Ndaté Yala. Many don't know about her either. She was really one of the strong women of the Wallo tribe in the northwest of Senegal, and she was actually she resisted colonial powers as well, and she was promoting nationalism and education. She is actually very well known and respected in her area, and I will encourage some of the women here to go and read a little bit more about her. And of course, Taitul Betul in Ethiopia also play a fundamental role in the resistance of Ethiopian in resisting the invasion of Italy. But as you know, Ethiopia today is known as the only country in Africa that has not been colonized. But one of the key things you have to understand is that some countries in Africa went actually to support Ethiopia when they were fighting against colonization. And indeed, there was strong resistance there and strong autodetermination. And I think it is very, very important that Addis Ababa is the capital of the African Union. That capital was actually founded by this woman called Taitul Betul, and she's actually a symbol of autodetermination, of resistance, and of independence. So it is very important to go and read a bit more about her and about how she was advising in her role as the wife of this king. And here I'm going to speak to you about the Amazon of Dahomey in Benin. I think some of you may know about them. They used to be a big army of women warriors in Benin. They don't talk much about them. They talk. I think recently there's that movie Wakanda, who you can see some of the warrior. It's they actually taken example from this army of women soldiers, but they have made a significant impact in fighting the French when the French colonized the Abomey kingdom. So here I'm going to give an example also of the mother of Malcolm X. A lot of people just hear about Malcolm X, but they don't really know who was behind this great figure in the movement, the civil rights movement. This is her mother. She was an African descent, and she played a significant role also in raising her son, and she was also very intelligent. She spoke a lot of languages. She was multilingual at her time during the segregation in America. She resisted. Today we hear a lot about women like Rosa Parks, those who are in the media, but before Rosa Parks there were other women already. They stood up and for their rights, but they might not be known. So I wanted to give the example of Louise Norton Little, who also resisted segregation in America, and I want also for us to remember Sarah Baartman, this black South African who has become almost like an animal. I didn't want to forget her when we're speaking about these women, because she was dehumanized. She was, dehumanized in a way that goes beyond belief, because she was taken to Europe, to France, where she was put in display so that they can look at her form. And then after that, even after her death, her body was dissected so that they could still study her anatomy, her vagina, and it was really horrible what happened to her. And recently only her body was returned. Her remains was returned to South Africa. So I also wanted you to go and find out about her and her dignity, because after a while she became very depressed living in Europe and being dehumanized in that way. So this is also a woman that I will advise you to find out a little bit more about her, because not many people talk about her in a way. So there's also this woman called Audley Moore. She was really a revolutionary Pan-Africanist. They call her Queen Mother Audley. She actually was a Harlem activist in the Marcus Garvey Union. And a lot of people just hear about the men, during the civil rights movement, but they don't really hear about the women. Some knows about her, but not many. And she was very active and really she was a force in the critical declaration of the Republic of New Africa in 1968, where people were actually looking at the Pan-Africanism with Kwame Nkrumah and all this and that. So I will invite you also to go and find out about Queen Mother Audley Moore. One thing I wanted to highlight as we move forward now to going post-colonization, we talk a lot about the women's suffrage, about the suffragettes, but there is a movement of women that people don't talk a lot about. In South Africa, in 1915, 1918, there was already the Bantu Women Leagues, who was actually founded by Dr. Charlotte Manye Maseke, who was one of the first South African women to be member of the ANC. And the ANC is the National Congress, the African National Congress. And these women actually founded their own organization to talk about women issue and to channel women politics into the ANC national struggle. So you see, that's why sometimes when we look at ourselves and people have pejorative or start labeling people. When you are feminist, they think feminist is a Eurocentric concept, and they say, when you say feminist, they look at you and say, okay, she's been taken by white women, and it's actually not true, because when you look at our history, you see how all these women resisted and how they made sure that they were at the forefront, and that feminism is about our rights as human beings. Then you will see that we all as women, either we are black or white, we have been part of this talking about our issue, but also making sure that we can talk about our own issue as well as women. So now we can move into the post-colonial era. And in this post-colonial era, I would like to pay tribute to Funmilayo, the mother of women's rights in Nigeria. I don't think many black women or African women know about her, but she was very fierce. And Funmilayo is the mother of none other than Kuti, Femi Kuti, that everybody hear about, the great singer, but nobody knows who was behind him, you know? And we want to pay tribute to her, and I will really invite you to go and read more about her, because she was such a character. And as you can see, a lot of Nigerian women, they are very strong, and she has played a big role in their country, fighting, even though they wouldn't let her, but she was really fighting. And she received in 1970 the Lenin Prize for Peace, please. Wow. At that time, you know, there was a lot of coup d'etat in Nigeria. There was a lot, but there were things that women were doing that people don't know about it. So I will invite you to find out about Funmilayo. She was born in and died in 1979. Can you just believe how old she was and fighting at that time, you know? And of course, I want to remind us, our Congolese sister, about two prominent figures. They called Mayaka Pongo and Anna Libondo. Actually, you know, Funmilayo here, she participated at the Nigerian, you know, when the Nigerian got the independence, you know, at the table, she was there, you know. Wow. But when you go, yeah, and they don't talk about it, but when you go to Congo now, you ask during the table ronde, the round the table in Congo, there were women too, but they ausculted that. And when we did a lot of research and find out, particularly in the family of Anna Libondo, she went actually because during the table ronde, they called civil society. They didn't only call politicians, they also called civil society. So women were also part of the delegation, even though they didn't let them come to participate. So Mayaka Pongo and Anna Libondo, they traveled there, and they remained very fearful, because today in Congo, we only talk about Lumumba, Kasavubu, all these men who were part of the independence. But there were also women. There were women like Thérèse Pakassa, who was there already since 1960, so many women. And actually, Mayaka Pongo and Anna Libondo, they were killed, and they were killed in a way that is very atrocious. Apparently, because they were resisting so much, to make an example, they took their hands, tied into a car, and their feet, and then they drove the car apart. Can you imagine? But this is not known, you know? And when you try to speak about it, some of the women also were silenced for speaking out at that time, you know? So it's very important to find out about her. We promoted their story, and we are trying to find out a bit more, because some of the archive in Belgium, we can find out who really were those women who were part of the civil society, who were part of the Congo independence. And then I will ask you as well to read about Aline Sitoé Diatta from Senegal. She resisted. She was also one of the strongest anti-colonialists in the Casamance. You know, Casamance in Senegal is where the stronghold of resistance is up to today, actually. And she was one of, can you see just how she looked like? This is a real picture of her, you know.
16 years.
Yeah? Huh?
She was only 16 years.
Yeah, no, but you see how much this heroine of anti-colonial resistance in Casamance is not known, even by Senegal. At that time, imagine, do you feel Senegal at that time was not as Islamist as it is today? You don't see Senegalese women dressed like that, but look how she was dressed and how she looked free, you know. Mm-hmm. So this character needs to come out to show you some of the work that those women are doing. André Blouin, that's a character. She was mixed race. her father was white and her mother was a slave, but she was educated and then taken to, and she was educated, but she always felt when she was with the white folk, she was not fitting in. She wasn't fitting in because she wasn't white. There was a lot of discrimination. She lived a lot of abuse. So she's starting really, because of what she had as education, giving her contribution to the Pan-African movement of independence. And she played a big role in the Congo, even though she was from Centrafrique. She came to Congo during the Congolese independence, and a lot of people are saying she was actually one of the brain behind Lumumba as well. Yes, so these are the women who have really contributed. And today I would like to pay tribute to the Friend of the Congo who are providing this web space for us, because they have a project in Congo where there is a center that is named after André Blouin, and sometimes I go and give training in that center and give talk, because that center is actually promoting Pan-Africanism, is promoting information information that are written or have been written by African, for African, and is promoting actually autodetermination of African. So there's a center there called Centre André Blouin that I will invite you. It's a multicultural center. It's actually a cultural center where people go and find out about the history. They go and meet. There's music, African music. So it's really good, but it was named after André Blouin. So the next woman here is Angolan women. And as you know, in Angola, actually, women were conscripted into the army during the revolution. So in Angola, actually, because of the era of Nzinga Kuvu and the Congolese Empire with what you heard about Kimpa Vita, they had kept that autodetermination. So the women there, we figure in the independence movement, figure like Deolinda Rodriguez, Iena Angrazia, and Vastok Inga. These women were really into the as I can say, the cooking of their independence. They really play a role, so it's important to go and find out about them. And of course, we will always remember Miriam Makeba, you know, music, politics. She sacrificed so much. She was exiled because of, you know, so I just wanted to name her. And I want to tell you about Cesaria Evora from Cape Verde, you know, her music and her determination, you know. So I just want you to go and read about her traditional music, La Mona, and you know. And I want to tell you about Bella Bello. You know Bella Bello from Togo and all. She's not known here, but she has, you know, impacted so many lives in Africa. And of course, Abeti Masikini. You know, her father played a big role in the independence of the Congo as well. He was also at the table ronde when, yes. So her music was actually, even though she was coming from a mixed race family, she was really also trying to make sure that through her music, there will be some form of message to promote Africa. She was singing about our food, about our culture, about everything. So I also wanted to speak about her. There is this woman in Eritrea. We were hoping that Khadija Ahmed would come and speak about her, because she's also one of the mother of Eritrea. As you know, Eritrea broke out from Ethiopia, and this woman played a role really in mobilization behind the military lines, and because you know it was due to her revolutionary poetry that today there is a lot of Eritrean women really have some autodetermination. And indeed, there is a history when you look at how they were divided. It was also something to do with colonial power and everything, but women were also part of it. I don't know all of the story, but they were going to speak to us about her. Unfortunately, Khadija's husband is battling a form of cancer, so she can't live when he's in distress, so she couldn't come today. But I just want you to go and find out more about her. There's not much to be read really about her. We are part of this African network of women, and the Eritrean Women Network are really trying to bring out her stories coming from Eritrea, the story of Eritrean women, because as you know today, Eritrea is a dictatorship, You know, a lot of them are in exile. So that means after the revolution, you know, it's like the revolution has killed and eaten its own kids again. They are here in exile, and but they don't want to forget those women who have sacrificed their lives in Eritrea, and who they don't want them to be forgotten. So this is a little bit the new generation of Eritrean. Some of them, Khadija wanted me to show you some women who are imprisoned today in Eritrea, to kind of look a little bit more about what is going on there in Eritrea. They said, I need my freedom back. I'm a daughter of Eritrea and I need my freedom back. They feel hostage, women feel hostage in their own country because there is constriction. Women have to be part of the army. You know, they have, yes, they go in the military, they have to do military service, and sometimes under harsh conditions. Some of them are raped. Some of them are living difficult situations. Their country is extremely militarized. It's one of the most militarized countries in Africa. It's even worse than Rwanda, what is happening in Rwanda now with Eritrea. Actually, Eritrea is a state, but actually it belongs to the dictator, you know. I just wanted to also play tribute to this woman. She's actually the first female an African leader of the World Trade Organization. I just wanted to pay tribute because not many, it wasn't told really, but it's a big role to have working at the World Trade Organization and being the first female, not only the black, but first female and African actually. So I just wanted to highlight that we have a strong woman there from Nigeria. And this woman actually, if you read about her, you will also see that, you know, she's quite ambitious, but she's also one that is trying to establish her leadership amongst the men. As you know, Nigeria is heavily patriarchy. If you look at the structure, how they're leading with all the coup, it could be extremely intimidating for women. But actually, the Nigerian women are doing very well in fighting their position, and we just hope they're not going to be using too much of the masculine and patriarchal structure that are in their countries. And we were hoping to have Pat talking to her from Ghana. There is Nana Konadu Adieman-Rawling, who used to be the first lady of Ghana, but she's actually put her head forward to be a candidate during the election. I think it was last year or the year before, I can't remember. But actually, Pat, who is a Ghanaian with whom I network, stated that she wanted to speak about her and discuss a little bit this woman's integrity, because as you know, while her husband has done some constructive, even though it can be seen as negative in a way, but he has done a lot of constructive work in Ghana. And she has been a little bit also behind her husband, the strength behind her husband, the advisor behind her husband, but not many people talk about her. She's really kind of worth talking about her. And this is Khadija in the UK, the one I was talking to you about, my colleague. She's very, very a good woman. We met through WILF, the Women International League for Peace and Freedom, that I'm a member of, where we had the Voices of African Women. We actually help her to have this network of Eritrean women, and she is actually working a lot with the diaspora in bringing peace, and she's a refugee here in the UK. And Marie-Lise, that you've seen here. Marie-Lise, do you want to come and speak about Ingabire? Do you want to? No, you want to come and speak about her. I don't know if some of you have heard about Victoire Ingabire from Rwanda. She's actually the only woman who is actually challenging Paul Kagame. And she's being jailed for challenging. She's trying to actually call on all the leaders to look at the genocide of Rwanda, where actually Hutu and Tutsi died. It is very important to recognize that. and it is important to have an inter-dialogue between the Hutu and the Tutsi and how they can live peacefully. And she was imprisoned, she was a prisoner of conscience, and I think Marie-Lise is better suited to speak about that.
I won't share much because she's going to speak to us later this afternoon. So we're looking forward to hear from her. But I started her campaign a few years ago when I joined the Voices of African Women, and she was in prison just because she dared to put herself forward to challenge President Kagame. It was a long journey for her. She was imprisoned for 8 years, but eventually she was released. And from being released, it was framed that she was pardoned by the president, which meant that the fact that she's received the president pardon, she should be silenced. She didn't stop there. She carried on to stand up for the rights of the Rwandan people because she believes in their freedom. She believes in true democracy that the current leadership of Kagame is not offering to the Rwandan people. So I'm not going to say much, but she's my hero. She's the light and the beacon of democracy, really, and a good example for the women of the Great Lake region. War needs to happen, whereby we need to stand up and come together to build a society that promotes human rights, rule of law, and equality for all. So I'll stop here because I've got a message for everyone for this afternoon.
That's good. Fantastic. That's very good. So I will continue with today with Samia that we have in Tanzania. She's the president of Tanzania. As you know, she was co-opted after the death of Magufuli, but still it is really an achievement because this is the first Muslim woman in Tanzania, and we have to celebrate that because, as you know, there is a lot of Muslim women who are living under Sharia law, which is extremely, sometimes can be extremely not understood, and also apply a masculinity, a violent masculinity that actually disempower women and also subject women to different forms of violence. But she has been bringing in a different form of Islam that we see that is looking at peaceful cohesion in her country. And as you know, Tanzania is extremely open. There's no discrimination, and it's a progressive state. And it is very, very empowering to see a Muslim woman leading Tanzania and leading it in a way that dignify African and Muslim women. So I just wanted to share that with you because it was not really publicized all over the world that you have a woman president in Tanzania. You know, I know they made a lot of noise when Helen Sirleaf became a president. But when she became a president, there was not so much noise. We know she was not elected, even though she's just co-opted, but still, it is an achievement for her to reach that state because she was a member of the ruling party, Cham Cham, that was in power. They could have opted for somebody else, but they decided to give her. So we will finish here by what we started with, human rights. As we stated, a lot of misunderstanding sometimes within our community or in Africa, in Congo, where we don't understand really what is human right, because people have been dehumanized so much by wars, by the colonization, by dictatorship, that they forget actually that it is a right to live, to exist is a human right, to have peace is a human right, to have food is a human right, to have health, to have education, to have just the information that I'm giving you today is a human right, to read books. And I think I've circulated the books. I don't know if you can give me those books. There's some of the books that I felt are very important for us to read about women. It is a human right to be able to have access to books that have history. And it is a human right to have mobility, to be able to move away from insecurity. And as you know, a lot of people are migrating. They're moving away from Africa. They're moving away from the Congo. People want to have, you know, to live a normal life and to have an opinion, to choose. to have an autonomization. That means to have to be able to think by themselves and to have a social economic. A lot of Africans are very poor because of the bad structure imposed on us and by leaders that we didn't elect. And it is also a right for Africans to participate in the governance of their country. Because imagine in countries where there's no water, there's no electricity, there is no sanitation, how women who are, how they call their physiology, because a lot of women, according to their physiology, they menstruate. And if you menstruate, there's no water. I've been in places in the Congo where women don't have no access to water. How are you going to clean yourself? So it's very important for us to have access to the decision table where things are being decided for the life of women in Africa. So I think I'm going to stop here and say a big thank you for everybody for your participation to this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Marie-Claire, for this thorough presentation of the successes, the challenges of our foremothers, and it's both that we celebrate them today and always, really, as they will guide us through the journey of creating a better future for the future generations. So we're going to have an hour break, and when we come back, we'll be able to hear from our sister from Ghana, who's going to talk about the antique and modern Ya Asantewa. And our sister who's going to present this is called Pat Badu Darko, and she's currently in Ghana as well. Then we'll also hear from Madame Victoire Ingabire directly from Rwanda. So make sure you log in back at about 3 o'clock.
I was actually going to put a video for those who are on the web to see.
Oh, okay, yeah. So there will be a video playing now while we have a break, and then we'll be back maybe about 3:15. That's when we'll be back, and we carry on with our conversation for today. So don't go far away, stay tuned, and we'll be back soon.